A continuation. James chapter 3, verse 3. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouth that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. 4. Look also at ships. Although they are so large and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. 5. Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. So Nick's dad, through his tongue, he boasted great things. That he has a lot of money, that even $1 million is just easy cash for him to open a case for me that will never end. His tongue exercised, being a little member of the body. But look how it lit a forest. Which forest did it lit? Through his confession. Confession is possession. It was the fire that he made exit out of his mouth through the tongue. And look at the disaster that he brought upon himself. The forest that was put on fire. The case of Timothy. 6. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body, and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell. So many people, through just confessing, speaking, have made fires in their lives. The fires that have ended up burning them or their family, and has brought darkness on their life, making them to fall more and more into dark covenants. Whatever you speak is what you possess. The tongue is very powerful. What comes out of your mouth is what defines you. So, the tongue it is a world by itself. It molds your world. Whatever you speak, whatever you utter, whether at your lowest, whether at your highest, matters a lot. So, what Nick Dad spoke, it was the fire that he lit up that matchstick to burn the forest. And he harvested the seed that he planted. So many of us, whether you are a parent, whether you are a sister, whether you are a brother, whether you are a child, have lit this fire through the tongue. That has made us stagnate. We have ended up burning to ashes, having no life, falling into more and more dark covenants. And many through this have ended up cursing other people, cursing even God, saying that someone did witchcraft on them. But it is not that. Because through their own tongue, they ended up falling into dark covenants. Remember how God made covenants with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It was through the spoken. So whatever you speak matters a lot. Whatever you utter has power. Remember, the covenants were made through speaking. Even when the bride and bridegrooms are having their vows, how is it done? Through speaking. Again, another example. When Anna, the mother of Samuel, for him to get out of that slavery, it was like a dark covenant, the barrenness. He had to speak through the vow, and it happened. The power of the tongue. That word that she spoke, saying that this will be your servant, was the matchstick that burned that forest of barrenness. So the tongue has power. It is just a little thing, but it does great harm. Through the tongue, the world of sin has been made manifest. People speak anyhow, speak anything. Through the tongue, lies is spread, wickedness is spread, the plots of murder, every evil thing rotates around the tongue. So even the curses have been made through the tongue. Like some people are just only under dark covenants because of what they exercise through their tongue. Like for example, some people when they were young, in the company of maybe their parents, their relatives, they chose to steal some money or did something bad. And when the parents asked about that thing, they never confessed the truth. They ended up lying. Maybe that money the parent had attained it through hardship, and it was meant maybe for school fees or maybe for shopping. And then you, as the only child, you come and steal that amount of money. So the parents decide to ask who took the money, and they ask in pain. They ask in frustration. But you, as the child, you took that amount of cash, but you decide to lie, saying that it wasn't me, maybe it is someone, but in reality it is you. You are hiding, and yet you took that amount of money. So in the end, some parents ended up speaking harsh words, that whoever took that money will not prosper in his life. Or maybe the parent ended up saying, whoever took that money, even him, he will lose more and more. So, someone ends up in this dark covenant that was exercised through the spoken. Or even they said, whoever took this money, he or she will never get married or have a marriage. So, the word was spoken. In reality, you took that amount of money. So, the parent, because he or she knows that it is not my own child, it is someone else, because the child has made the parent to think that it is someone else. So, the parent ends up cursing, and yet it is the only child that has taken that amount of cash. So because of that, someone grows, but That foundation was laid already. The dark covenant. You grow, the parent still educates you, you get work, you get job, but whatever was spoken haunts you because you lied. The power of the tongue. So dark covenants have been exercised even through the tongue. Someone ends up cursing their own children unknowingly. Children are always stubborn. They do the bad, they do the evil, and they don't want to accept and ask forgiveness. So many parents have ended up cursing their own children. So you grow up, but you fail to get marriage, or you get a marriage, but it is never successful. It ends up even just a month, you get into another marriage, it ends up another marriage, it ends up. Why? Because there was a dark covenant that was exercised through the spoken, through the power of the tongue that you made yourself into. You agreed into it because by lying that you were not the one, you were able to agree to that dark covenant. But if one confesses, is getting out of that covenant. So many people, they are grown up right now, but there are some dark covenants that they were able to get into when they were kids. They did that bad. They did that awful thing. They did a bitter, evil thing that made the parents cry. They made the parents weep. They put the parents into more problems. And in that process, the parents uttered some harsh words of curses. And that is how many are suffering, stagnating in life today. So I continue. 7. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea, is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. 8. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. 9. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men, who have been made in the similitude of God. So, with the tongue, many people are living under curses. We are supposed to honor God. We are supposed to honor our parents. But as children, many have failed to do that. And because of this, many people have ended up in curses. 10. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. 11. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? 12. Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Does no spring yields both salt water and fresh water? So another thing, some people have been brought forth from families who possess the witchcraft, the witches, but they are hiding them secretly. Some children, their parents wanted them to be heirs of these dark altars, but the children refused, either openly or they were dodging around. So some parents have been monitoring their children to see if they can inherit these dark altars. But when they see that their children cannot, a better example is maybe you come from a family that is of witchcraft, and then when you grow up, you stabilize in the work of God. So you have stabilized in the work of the Lord Almighty. And yet, in secrecy, the parents wanted you to inherit their dark altar. But now you have stabilized in the work of God. There is no way you will accept them. And there is no way they will tell you to accept them. So some parents, because of this, they too have ended up speaking the bad and evil to these children. So putting the children under dark secret covenants. Because as much as this person is growing into ministry, he has a foundation. She has a foundation. There is a bloodline. And this bloodline still speaks volumes into his ministry. So you find many people, yes, they have entered into ministry, but they are not stable. Why? Because of bloodline covenants. And these bloodline covenants, which are of darkness, may have been exercised through the spoken, the power of the tongue, or practical. So that is why when someone enters into ministry, they are supposed to break these covenants, untie the cords of dark covenants, the bloodline covenants, any. You may not know them all, but through the help of God, the Spirit of God, one is able to destroy them. The foundational altars matters a lot. So that is why sometimes you find someone is in ministry, but you get both the good and the evil coming out of this person. There is no stand. You wonder why. You get confused because of bloodline covenants. A witch will always speak what is evil. They'll always curse. They are there to destroy. They are there to monitor. Let me say a better example. It's like Mtumishi. Mtumishi spoke about his life. He spoke saying that even when her mother dies, it won't pain her. And he explained why. Because he said her mother used to involve him with some rituals to be done against his own dad. And this made their father run away. So Mtumishi was there saying that he wishes to get into ministry. Again, he was complaining that getting a stable marriage has been a problem. He married and the wife exited. Why? Because of the foundational altars. Because of a dark covenant. Remember, he said that her own mother involved her. So, already he was made a heir to that dark altar through that involvement of being given those ritual herbs to put them in whatever way he did. He was already made a heir through that. So, as much as he has progressed, he was already made a heir. As much as he has progressed, he wants a wife. He wants to stay. But he has not accepted that. What her mother needs is for him to confess fully and accept fully. Although he was already given that heirship. He was given that heirship in secrecy. And that still haunts him because he is the heir. So he has ended up into a dark covenant, although he has separated himself from her mother. Even no communication. But that foundation that he was brought in is speaking volumes in his life until he destroys that foundation. That dark covenant is when he will be able to have a stable marriage. Because if not, as much as he marries a wife, that wife must also accept that altar. So he needs to break that altar so that he can be able to live a life of blessings. So dark covenants are so many. Some people have ended up escaping their own families, their own homes, because their parents were witches. But they have failed to prosper. As much as they are far, they have failed to prosper. Why? Because they have not destroyed that altar. They have not cut those cords. They are of the same bloodline. As much as they are far, they are still members of that one body, that body of witchcraft. So it haunts their life. Maybe they ended up fleeing. But when they ended up fleeing, their own parents who are witchcrafters said, as much as you have gone, you will never prosper. So they have been held into captivity through the tongue. But this dark covenant. So mtumishi has to destroy those cords. He has to cut those cords for everything to be successful. Because as much as he is far, he is still in captivity of his own mother. He involved him doing that rituals when he was young. He was innocent, not knowing anything. He was able to understand when he has grown up. So many people too are suffering in secrecy because when they were young, even some maybe they were given the porridge to serve the snakes. That is how they were initiated. I heard of another story of a young girl, not a very young girl, but she had a kid, and she was saying that her son is 2 years, but every night when it reaches midnight, the son wakes up, removes all the clothing and becomes naked. Then he goes out to run. That child was already initiated into witchcraft. He was made a heir. He is already a witch at that young age. So that is how dark covenants are. Some people were even given some gifts by their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their relatives. Some are ritualistic gifts, like the walking sticks. Then we also have the nyaunyos. Some even drums. In your physical eye, you see this is just a drum. This is a walking stick. But they are ritualistic sticks. that have been passed from generations to generations. Some were made even to have clothing. So they speak. And you have to be purified, because you cannot have the blessings and curses just from one point. One has to go away so that you are able to be fruitful and live a good life. 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. 14. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. Back to Nick's dad. Because of his envy, they wanted only the good for themselves, to prosper and have their own way. So, through the statement that he made, he was boasting and lying against the truth. They had done bad. They were in possession of dark altar, having idols. But he decided to boast and lie against the truth. And that brought him calamity. Sometimes they say silence is better. Silence is a weapon. But they tried not to keep silent. They saw themselves as finality, as having everything, as having the whole world. But that was boasting against the truth through their tongue. 15. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. So, he thought he had everything. He had the great wisdom that will make him boast, that will make him have what he needs, that will make him have dominion and power, that will make him greater, that will make him prosper and be seen as not lying. But this wisdom that he had, that made him to do everything that he did, that made him speak what he spoke, it was not the wisdom of above, the godly wisdom. Because the godly wisdom always speaks the truth. The godly wisdom is right. The godly wisdom is treasure. The godly wisdom is peace. The godly wisdom is solution. The godly wisdom is prosperity. The godly wisdom is kind. The godly wisdom is love. So, through what he spoke lie, he spoke deceit, he spoke envy, he spoke evil. This was not godly wisdom. That is why it is being said, this wisdom does not descend from above. The wisdom that only descends from above is the godly wisdom. But it is earthly, sensual, demonic. So, the wisdom that he had, that made him do and practice and speak what he spoke, it was the earthly wisdom, the demonic wisdom, the sensualic wisdom. His own sense. So, this earthly, demonic, the sensualic wisdom made him speak and dug a pit for himself. 16. For where envy and self-seeking exist, Confusion and evil, every evil thing are there. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. See how they behave. See what they did. They were totally confused. It was a rapture of confusion. Because when you have the godly wisdom, there's always peace. You'll have the knowledge. You'll have the understanding on how to deal with matters in a peaceful way, so that it does not end into disaster. 17. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. This is the godly wisdom that is only from above. It is pure, it is peaceable, it is gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Now see how arrogant they were. See how boastful and evil they were. They had the demonic and earthly wisdom to even hide my clothes and do witchcraft. For Nick's mother even to strangle me. They did all the bad. Look what disaster happened. There was no peace. So, where you are, which wisdom do you have? Which wisdom do you operate with? Because if it is not a godly wisdom, know that you are under dark covenants. You are reigning and operating under dark covenants, and you have to get out of it so that you will be able to have your peace and live a life of glory and live a fruitful life. 18. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Have the fruit of righteousness, the final peace. The wisdom that a person has is manifested through the tongue. It is a small thing. Through it, one is able to be known if he has the godly wisdom or the demonic and earthly wisdom. So with the godly wisdom, one is able to speak blessings. But with the demonic wisdom, it is only curses. And with the godly wisdom, the matchstick that one burns to light up the fire. This fire is the light of God that will erase the darkness. But with the earthly wisdom, the matchstick that one has to light up the forest, the fire, it is the matchstick of destruction. So which wisdom do you have? The tongue has power. Confession is possession. Have the wisdom of the Lord Almighty to help you have a peaceable life and get you out of the secret dark covenants that you got into them knowingly or unknowingly, even through the spoken. Expounding more on dark covenants through the spoken. I've told you of how Nick's mom said to me that I should tie a thread on my firstborn daughter Lindsay waist, that it molds her waist. But that is how, if I had accepted, that is how I would have been trapped into a dark covenant, because it was that I will be being handed the witchcraft. So see how dark covenants have been exercised through the spoken, the power of the tongue. That's why you have found many people, they have children, but some have this thread tied around their children's waists. Some even they're barely 6 months, but they already have these threads or ropes tied around their waist. Some will be told that inazuia echira, and this echira has been explained that when a mother has given birth, so the husband may have extramarital affairs, and when he comes and handles the child suffers under an attack of sickness, like malnutrition, like poor growth and development. So many have been made to believe that when you tie this rope around the waist, it prevents such things from happening in the child's growth. So they have been made to believe it through the spoken, the power of the tongue. But the bone of grave is, they have been wooed into dark covenants. So the child will grow. And the powers of witchcraft, the dark covenants, the spiritual of the dark world will manifest of the child. Some will become evil, some will become bullies. Some will do the unimaginable because of these dark covenants. So not only are dark covenants exercised through the practical, but many at times they have been achieved through the spoken. Even when people have gone to visit the witch doctors, the witchcrafters, the ritualists, the diviners, how are these covenants achieved? They have been achieved through the spoken. They will tell you, speak this. They will tell you, repeat after me. They will tell you ABC. Some even will be given some things to read. And remember, a covenant is achieved. It is successful when the other party agrees. So the moment you agree even to repeat after that person, the moment you agree to do it, the moment you agree to read, that is how you enter into a covenant. Because a covenant involves 2 or more parties. So many of the covenants have been achieved through the spoken, the power of the tongue. So reflect into your life and know where something went wrong, something illegal. Some even they visited their grandfathers, and just through this, the walking sticks that they have, you are the grandson, you are the son, they have been told, take this walking stick and do A, B, C, and D. So you do that, but that is how you are being given the heredity of the witchcraft, the ritualistic, being made the heir, being made the owner. So the dark covenants, even through gifts of clothing, it has been exercised, it has been achieved, and many people are suffering. Again, during that night of argument with Nick also tried to exercise his power of the tongue to enter me into a dark covenant, because I was being shaken and my whole body was trembling by the power of the Holy Spirit. So he later said to me that he should never see me again pray in the house, being shaken and trembling. So if I decided to agree and live by this condition, that is how I will be entered into a dark, secret covenant. Because I will live in fear of him and I will fail to pray because I fear him. Because I will be saying to myself, I may start praying and maybe he kills me. So that is how I will have been made into a dark covenant. So people have been made into secret dark covenants in form of character too. Being proud, fear, being boastful, being arrogant, being evil, being rude. Those are dark covenants. And many people even nowadays are living in such manner. They are not able to speak because of fear. They are in slavery. They are suffering, serving the dark world. So they have ended up in dark slavery because of character. They have been circled into dark covenants because of character. They are serving the dark world. So dark covenants is exercised through so many things. Like you find even children. Nowadays they are very, very rude. This is a dark covenant. Through character. They are arrogant. They don't want to listen. Some are bullies. Some are liars. Some, all they speak is just wickedness. Dark covenants. So dark covenants is very wide. It is very wide. But now that the light of the Lord is shining on you, be able to get out of the dark covenant. Because the only person that you have to fear is only the Lord Almighty. Because when you fear anything else, if you fear a witch more than God, if you fear a caterpillar more than God, if you fear anything else more than God, know that you are under dark covenant and you have been made into the worship of idols. You are serving the dark world. You are not serving the true God. You are worshipping the dark world. You are not worshipping the true God. Because a child of God is free. You have to have your freedom in everything that you do. Having fear is not freedom. Being boastful is not freedom. You are in captivity. You are in cords of torment of dark spirits. Rejection is a dark covenant. A best example, you have seen that when I was separated from Nick's place, after that, what did I suffer? There was rejection. A rejection spirit. Remember when I lived with my sister Lynette, what happened? Remember my mom, what happened? So there was that rejection spirit that was there. So dark covenants, unless you cut these cords, unless you break these cords, you won't say that you are free to serve the Lord. Because these dark covenants, they always say, kata kitovu. Have the only cord of the Lord Almighty. Despite all this, when I was in the church, Emmanuel Jesus Power Ministry, one Sunday, there was a guest preacher who preached. And he preached about covenants. And I remember when he was finalizing, he preached and said that if there is anyone in this church who at any point in their life, whether young or some even they may not know, but if on our body